They buried her on a rainy afternoon. The grief was unbearable until the boy's phone rang. The caller ID said, "Mom," but she had been dead for 2 days. What started as a small mistake turned into a nightmare that no one could explain. This is the chilling story of a boy, a grave, and a phone that should have stayed buried. The sky wept that morning. Dark clouds loomed above the cemetery as 12-year-old Ryan stood by his mother's casket, numb and silent. Raindrops tapped gently against his umbrella, echoing the dull ache in his chest. The world felt muted, like even nature was mourning with him. Ryan was too young to fully understand death, but old enough to know that his life had changed forever. His mother had been everything, his comfort, his storyteller, his protector. Now she was gone, just gone. He clutched a small wooden box tightly to his chest, filled with her most cherished belongings. A faded photograph of them laughing together at the beach, her arms wrapped tightly around him, hair blowing in the wind. Her silver necklace with the heart-shaped pendant she wore every day, and a small, worn-out teddy bear, her childhood toy that she had once given to Ryan when he was scared of thunderstorms. But in his grief, Ryan had also been carrying something else. Tucked inside his jacket pocket was an old, cracked phone, his first one. It didn't even work anymore. The screen was broken, the battery long dead. But Ryan couldn't bring himself to throw it away. His mom had once helped him pick the wallpaper, a picture of them from his 10th birthday. He carried it everywhere, not to use, but because it made him feel safe. As the priest's voice rose and fell with the rhythm of the eulogy, Ryan stepped forward when asked to place her favorite things into the casket. His hands were trembling. He opened the box and gently laid the items beside her, the necklace resting on her chest, the teddy bear tucked near her side, the photo placed under her hand. And in that moment, distracted by his tears, his heartbeat pounding in his ears, and the finality of saying goodbye, he accidentally dropped the old phone into the coffin. It slipped from his pocket, made no sound, and disappeared into the darkness beside her body. He didn't notice. Not then. The casket closed with a slow, metallic creak. The workers began to lower it into the earth as the rain grew heavier. People around him sobbed, whispered, or simply stared ahead, empty and broken. Ryan stood silently, unaware that a piece of himself, and something far more disturbing, had been buried that day. It wasn't until late that night, back home, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, that he reached for his old phone to look at the wallpaper one last time. But it was gone. He sat up in a panic, rummaging through his backpack, under his bed, the laundry basket, nothing. Then the realization crept in like a cold hand brushing his neck. It had to be in the coffin. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled. He whispered to himself, "It's okay. It's just a phone. It's broken anyway." But deep inside, something didn't feel right. He couldn't shake the feeling that he hadn't just lost a phone. He had disturbed something that shouldn't have been disturbed. And 2 nights later, when that same phone rang from an unknown number, he would wish he had never let it fall in. 2 nights had passed since the funeral, but Ryan hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his mother's pale face resting inside that wooden box. And the thought of his phone lying silently beside her made his skin crawl. He tried to distract himself, played games on his new phone, watched cartoons on mute, anything to forget. But the silence of the house was louder than ever. His father had become distant, lost in his own grief. He barely spoke, barely ate. So Ryan kept his fears to himself. That night, the rain returned, soft at first, like whispers against the window pane. It was just past midnight when it happened. Ryan was curled up under his blanket, trying to force himself to sleep when his phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up in the dark room. He glanced at it lazily, and then his blood turned to ice. Caller ID, Mom. He sat up so fast, he nearly knocked the lamp over. He stared at the screen, heart thudding so loud he could hear it in his ears. It had to be a mistake, a glitch. Maybe someone spoofing the number, but it was the exact name he'd saved her under. Capital M, lowercase om. Even the old profile picture showed her smiling face. The phone kept ringing, and something told him he shouldn't answer, but his thumb moved on its own. He picked up. Hello. There was silence. For a moment, all he heard was static. Then, something else. Breathing. Slow. Uneven. Like someone struggling to inhale through dirt. A faint scratching sound followed, like fingernails dragging across wood. Then, a muffled voice. Barely audible, almost like a whisper underwater. Rai. An. He screamed and threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and crashed to the floor. His father came running in, groggy and annoyed. But when Ryan tried to explain, all he could say was, Mom called me. His father's face twisted in pain, then frustration. Ryan, stop. Your mother is gone. You're just dreaming. It's your mind playing tricks. But Ryan knew what he heard. And when he retrieved his phone from the floor, there it was in the call log. Incoming call 12:07 a.m. Mom, duration 0:07, 7 seconds. That's all it took for his world to become a waking nightmare. And it was only the beginning. Ryan didn't sleep at all after the call. He kept staring at the call log, refreshing the screen, hoping it would disappear, hoping that maybe, just maybe, his phone had glitched and it had all been a mistake. But it didn't vanish. It was real. 7 seconds. Enough to haunt him forever. The next day at school, he barely spoke. His friends noticed the bags under his eyes, his pale skin, the way he kept checking his phone every few minutes. But how could he explain it to anyone without sounding insane? That evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon and the house fell into silence again, it happened. Buzz. Ryan picked up his phone, hesitating. It wasn't a call this time. It was a text. From the same contact. Mom, it's dark here. He froze. His fingers trembled. He stared at the message for what felt like an hour. Then another one came. Mom, why did you leave me? He felt sick. The phone nearly slipped from his hands. He wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but his legs wouldn't move. He showed the messages to his father, who looked at the screen, then back at Ryan with tired, angry eyes. Did you send these to yourself? He asked coldly. Are you trying to scare yourself? Or me? Ryan shook his head furiously, but his father wasn't listening anymore. He muttered something about grief and needing help before walking away. Later that night, Ryan sat on his bed, staring at the phone. His hands hovered over the screen. Should he reply? Should he block the number? But before he could decide, a third message appeared, and this one chilled him to the bone. Mom, they won't let me sleep. He felt something shift in the room, like the air got heavier. Hold her. He backed away slowly, setting the phone down as if it might explode. Then the typing dots appeared again. Someone, or something, was still texting. But instead of a fourth message, the typing stopped. When he checked his phone again, a few minutes later, he found something terrifying. The message app was open, and there was a draft. A message someone, or something, had started to send, but never finished. It read, I'm not your mother. Ryan stared at it, paralyzed. His heart raced. Who or what was buried in that grave? And why was it using his mother's voice? After the message, I'm not your mother, Ryan couldn't breathe. He deleted the draft in panic, but the damage was already done. The phone felt cursed in his hand, like it pulsed with something unnatural, something wrong. That night, he didn't sleep. He lay in bed with the blanket pulled up to his chin, every shadow in his room stretching too long, every creak of the old house echoing like footsteps. The messages stopped, but the feeling remained. Something was watching him, not from inside the room, but from below, from the earth. The next morning, Ryan tried again to talk to his father. He told him about the text, about the breathing, the whisper that said his name. But his father, hollowed out by grief and sleep-deprived rage, slammed his coffee cup on the table. Ryan, if you say one more word about this nonsense. So that night, Ryan made a choice. He waited until 2 a.m., when the house was quiet and the streetlights cast long shadows across the yard. He packed a flashlight, a jacket, and, with trembling hands, a shovel from the shed. The cemetery was less than a mile away, and the walk felt like a slow descent into a nightmare. Every rustling leaf, every gust of wind sent chills up his spine. But he kept going, because something inside him needed to know. When he reached the grave, he stopped. His breath caught. The soil looked disturbed, not fresh, but not settled either, as if someone, or something, had already been there. He didn't think. He just started digging. The shovel sank easily into the damp dirt. Each scoop sent fear deeper into his chest. He dug for what felt like hours, arms aching, heart pounding, until, clank, his shovel hit the coffin. He dropped to his knees, brushed away the remaining dirt, and slowly opened the lid. It creaked like a scream. Inside, there was no body, no necklace, no teddy bear, no photograph. Only one thing lay in the casket, right in the center, his old phone, still glowing, still powered on. Single notification flashed on the screen. One missed call, unknown. Ryan stared at it, unable to move. Then the flashlight flickered. Once, twice, and died. Darkness swallowed him whole. But before it did, he swore he heard a voice whisper from the open grave. You shouldn't have come back. Ryan didn't speak for 2 days after the grave. They found him at dawn, collapsed near the open casket, his hands scraped, his lips blue from the cold, and his eyes wide open as if he had seen something no child ever should. The coffin had been refilled by morning. No one believed him when he said it was empty. No one believed there had been a phone inside. Not even the police, who checked and found nothing but a properly sealed grave. His father, now terrified that grief had broken his son's mind, admitted him to a psychiatric facility for evaluation. Doctors whispered behind clipboards. Therapists asked gentle questions. But Ryan didn't respond. He just stared at the wall, whispering one word over and over. She's not gone. Then, on the third night, the police came back. They had reviewed the graveyard's security footage from that night. What they found sent one officer into early retirement. The footage showed Ryan digging, alone, until 3:47 a.m. That's when something moved in the background. A figure, pale and hunched, appeared near the edge of the camera frame. It stood still for a long time, just watching Ryan. Then it slowly stepped toward the grave. The footage ended in static just as Ryan looked up. The officers tried to recover the corrupted portion, but the hard drive short-circuited, fried from the inside. An investigation was launched. And that's when the second revelation came. They exhumed the grave again, this time officially. But when they opened the casket, what they found inside shocked everyone. It was not Ryan's mother, not even close. The body inside was far too decayed, almost skeletal. And the coroner confirmed something horrifying. Whoever this was died over 30 years ago. DNA tests proved it wasn't her. Her body and the personal items Ryan had buried were gone, vanished. And the final piece, Ryan's old phone was never recovered. But weeks later, someone reported a strange number calling their landline. No ID, just heavy breathing. and then a voice whispering, "You buried the wrong person." Ryan was never the same. He still wakes up some nights screaming, drenched in sweat, begging them to put her back, begging them to close the grave. But it's too late, because whatever came out that night wasn't his mother, and it's still looking for something or someone. What would you do if your loved one tried to contact you from the grave? Would you answer or would you run? Let us know in the comments. And remember, some calls should never be answered. Like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying tales from grave yucks.